Hi, good morning. Tom Trento here, the Trento Gold Show, but we're missing some gold this morning. Susie Gold is not with us. She will be back tomorrow, Wednesday. We're live day 9. Today is, I'm losing track of the days, May 18th, Tuesday, the 9th day of the war. And it is a war, ladies and gentlemen, a war in Israel. 3 words to form the context of what's going on in Israel and the Middle East: Iran, Iran, and Iran. And if you've been following our show, and we ask you to invite your friends to watch, send it to your own websites. We're broadcasting on many various social media platforms right now. If you've been following, we've been analyzing what's going on in the Middle East generally, and specifically this war in Israel, why it's occurring, who's involved, and what can be done by people who support Israel. Our show is unabashedly pro-Israel. That doesn't mean we agree with everything the Israeli government does, but from an existential, from a moral, from a historic, a theological point of view, we believe that Jewish people have a right to their own homeland. There's 56 Muslim countries. We believe the Jews have a right, not only geopolitically today since 1948, but going back 1, 2, 3, about 4,000 years. So we are defending the right of Israel to have a homeland. Some people want them eradicated from the river, the Jordan River, on the east to the Mediterranean Sea on the west. And those people are prosecuting a war against Israel, and it's occurring in a variety of areas. We're going to show you, I'm going to lay out geographically what's going on. Then we have a unique show for you today. Normally we have some pretty heavy-duty subject matter experts who can speak from Israel, many of them, and from the United States. Indeed, yesterday we had General Jerry Boykin, military hero from the United States. We had Eric Steckelbeck, who produces The Watchmen, wonderful show about Israel, broadcast on Trinity Broadcasting Network. And we had David Horowitz, former Marxist, Jewish scholar, author, formed the David Horowitz Freedom Center. And he concluded yesterday's show saying, Jewish people worldwide, and Israel specifically, need the support of evangelical, Bible-believing Christians to withstand the attacks that are occurring not only in the country, but now worldwide in the street, as anti-Semitism is pouring out in London, in Bolivia, in Spain, and indeed the United States. Today's show, we've invited some friends of the United States, folks who support us in a variety of ways, who work with us, to just share their personal reflections on what's going on. A little different type of show, not a heavy analysis, but speaking from the heart as Jewish and Christian pro-Israel supporters. But to get you up to speed, just in the past hour, in Gaza, Mark, if you can put the map up, I'll show the folks where we are geographically. Gaza launched a barrage of 50 mortars. A mortar is a small bomb that flies very quickly, 10, 15 seconds, from its launch point in Gaza to its target in one of the kibbutzes. Kibbutz is a small commune, 200, 300, 400 people along the border, usually doing agricultural work, selling their vegetables. And they're in a direct line of fire, 10 to 15 seconds, 50 mortars, not the large Qassam or the larger A-120 rockets, but these small mortars, which when hit have about a 10-meter radius to kill people. They launched it to a entry point in southern Israel by the Egyptian border, going into Gaza, where the trucks are going in. Listen to this. Right now, Israel's letting trucks go into Gaza. They're fighting a war with Hamas in Gaza. They're letting trucks go in to bring humanitarian relief, food and medical supplies. What kind of country fighting a war lets humanitarian aid go into that country. Israel does things a little differently from a humane perspective. 50 mortars came to Karim Shalom, a major truck depot. We have been there. The United West has been there, and the mortars hit and killed two labor workers who happened to be from Thailand, and injured about 10 others. Now, on this map right here, looking back on the screen, here's the Gaza Strip. It's 21 miles by 3 miles at its largest point. The Karim Shalom truck depots right down here, almost on the Egyptian border. That's where trucks were going in to resupply Gaza. They shut it down now, obviously, because there's been deaths and injuries. But Hamas is trying to do everything they can to disrupt any activity, even for their own people. And overnight and early this morning, right now, 9:06 a.m. on the East Coast, Tom Trento reporting, Jay Mark back there, Monte Cristo over here, Mary up north. Overnight, missiles were launched from Lebanon. Rockets came in, about 5 or 6. They're testing the Israeli anti-missile forces. All of this orchestrated by Iran. And then over here on the Jordanian border, a drone was approaching from the east to the west, coming into Israeli territory, and was shot down by Israeli anti-missile, anti-drone defense forces. So what does that mean? We got Lebanon, Hezbollah now, and we have in Jordan, which is controlled by Iran also, and Syria, now trying to test Israel. Yesterday, Eric Steckelback spoke on our show about the ring of fire that's enveloping Israel. The north, Hezbollah. From the east, Iran specifically, and obviously from the west, the Gaza Strip. That's the situation. 3,500 missiles in 9 days. It's approximately 400 missiles a day. Every couple of minutes, a missile. And they don't fire them one at a time. They fire 100 at a time. A couple of hours, quiet. Then 50, different places, different missiles. And they're not stopping. As of right now, Joe Biden, who has at least said Israel has a right to defend itself, has caved to the Islamic jihadis in his administration. And he is now calling for a ceasefire before Israel completes its military task of destroying the Hamas's military capability. So with that as a backdrop, we're going to segue to our first guest and just get some personal reflections on the situation. Our first guest is a dear friend of the United West. She's a Jewish woman. She's taken time from her day and from everything else to share some thoughts, goes back and forth to Israel, strong supporter of Israel. I'd like our audience and our friends to welcome Emmelle, just like the letters Emmelle, spelled a little differently, but Emmelle to our show. Good morning, Emmelle. How you doing?
Good morning to you, Tom. Thank you for what you do.
We're a team, and we're doing what we do. We're arguing for the state of Israel. You've been watching this, and we've spoken many times. Just take a moment with our audience, and as a Jewish woman who's concerned about everybody and everything, you're such a dear, loving person. What are your thoughts?
Well, it breaks my heart to see this happening over and over again to my beloved Israel. I felt that it would probably come with the weak horse in the White House. I feel that they were happy that Biden became president. They were emboldened by this weak administration, and they probably thought there would be a lot of support coming from this administration because of Obama. You know, Obama was no friend of Israel. Obama, I feel, is a Muslim, and he would have just as soon seen Israel weakened and a two-state solution, and that's where their ideology is. And I feel that this whole war was perpetrated because they felt they had allies on their side in the United States, unfortunately. And I'm concerned about I was very concerned about the attitude of the diaspora and where the support would be for Israel. I thought this was a very treacherous time because of who's in the Democrat Party and the powers that control our country now. And I thought we were, we could lose the public relations war. But I'm hoping that the country is seeing this. And I think from what I've read and from what I've heard, that I think there is support for Israel. Thank God. Thank God Bibi is still in office. And I totally support Israel. They should not listen to Biden's ceasefire because he's getting pressure from AOC and that squad, who should be thrown out of Congress. They are haters of America and they are haters of Israel, and they should be thrown out of Congress immediately. They do not belong in the government of our country. And I hope they're exposed. I hope people see how bad they are for our country, and we need to silence them and get them out. Of course, I'm a big Trump supporter.
All right, yeah. Emmelle, you're commenting quite passionately on AOC and the squad. The other day, Ted Cruz put out a tweet. He said, "Since when has AOC become the press secretary for Hamas?"
Yeah.
And look, we believe they should never have been elected. If
Right.
they're constitutionalists, they got elected in their crazy areas. They get thrown out in 18 months. Hopefully, we'll see. But you raised another very important point. You went back to the Obama administration. You referred to Obama in your belief as a Muslim. Technically, he was born of a Muslim father, and we argue this all during his administration. He is a Muslim by blood and by doctrine. He claims to be, Obama, a Christian. I happen to be a Christian theologian. I'm unfamiliar with Obama's form of Christianity. At worst, he is totally pro-Islamic, went on the tour to apologize. He and Biden authored the Iranian deal, which put us in this mess. So you referenced history past Obama, but Obama is present, controlling Joe Biden and others and wanting Iran to be dominant in the Middle East. Unbelievable.
Totally, and thus this conflict. It breaks my heart that the Abrahamic Accords are in peril now. Who knows what's going to happen with that? So,
yeah, I just want to bring up that Obama and Valerie Jarrett, I mean, his brain, who is totally aligned with Iran, and Obama's is Jeremiah Wright's type of, Black Lives Matter, Warnock, Cone, all that's, hate whitey, type of establishment. So anything that's
and hate the Jews. The Jews get put that's pretty amazing. All right, let's go to, for a second, hang in there, Emmelle, as long as you can for the next few minutes. Let's go to Michelle. Michelle is somewhere in the state of Florida. She's one of our producers, and she's the founder and head of an organization called Jexit, Jewish People Exiting the Democrat Party. Good morning, Michelle. How you doing?
Unmute. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me.
All right, look, you've been involved since day one of this, helping us produce this show, but you go back a little further. You lived in Israel for a while. Tell us about that.
I lived in the north, right on the Green Line, in an area right near Kiryat Shmona during the 80-81 volatile season of the PLO crossing the border and trying to get into where we live. So I spent some time in the bomb shelters up there. It's killing me. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just, every day, it's just heavy on my heart. I'm in touch with everybody there. You know, when you talk to the Israelis in Israel, that and you ask them what's going on, what's the situation, they're like, what are you talking about? Everything's great. So to them, they're used to it, and they don't let it faze them. It just doesn't faze them. These are the people that I speak with every day, but they're ready to do whatever it is they have to do to secure their borders and their safety and their people. I just wanted to touch on something that's really bothering me, because you know that with Jexit, we're trying to educate our fellow Jews to recognize the shift that, like Emmelle said, that the Democrat Party's taken to the radical left. The media in Israel it's worse than here. And so the problem that I have is that the left in Israel needs a Jexit, and a Jexit on steroids, to get these people to stop the media. It's a spiritual battle for that we're facing, and the media is the great Satan. And I listened to an interview this morning it was 5 days ago, with Naftali Bennett on Al Jazeera, and I wanted to, if I could stick my fist through the video. It was unbelievable what we have to deal with. It's unbelievable, and the media has to be taken down. There's no question about it. We have to fight this narrative. They spin everything. The Jews over there that are supporting and fighting with other Jews, they have to be called out, and unfortunately, it's gonna have to be Jews that do it. So that's where I stand with that. The left in Israel is worse than the left here.
You mentioned the media. Dr. Ronnie Wexler, you know him very, very well. Spoke with him the other day, and he said there's a whole variety of geopolitical terrorist activities taking place. And obviously the kinetic war, where the Hamas, by the way, Hamas, just a quick briefer on the Hamas. The Hamas started in 1987, right after the first Intifada, the first uprising of the Arab street in Israel, throwing rocks and fires and all of that. And Hamas, H-A-M-A-S, is an acronym, an Arabic acronym, English transliteration of an Arabic acronym that simply means Islamic Resistance Movement. Islamic Resistance Movement. They wrote a charter, they wrote a constitution that says our movement is dedicated to killing all the Jews, eradicating them from the river to the sea. So that's what the Hamas is about. In 2006, a year after Gaza was given as a state, you want a two-state solution? Here's a state, Gaza, 21 miles by 3 miles, 1.5 million, 2 million people. Singapore is smaller than Gaza. Malta, these are productive, industrious states. They were given a state, and instead of building a paradise on the Mediterranean, the Hamas in 2006 got elected to the government, implemented their Jew hatred killing policies that you're seeing played out in real life today. And instead of building a paradise on the Med, they desire to go to paradise by killing Jews. Unbelievable. But Ronnie said, not only do we have the kinetic battle going on, and not only are we being approached by the countries around, now there's internal civil unrest with the Arab Israelis fighting, but the social media, the capability, you were referring to this, Michelle, capability of social media to put out a lie. The Jews just slaughtered 50 babies and chopped off their heads and burned them on in a big fire. If that's put out, it goes around the Arab world as truth and riles them up even more. And their leaders call for vengeance against killing the 50 babies, which never happened. This is going all over the place. I don't know how to stop that. It's going to be nearly impossible to stop that. I do know that shows like ours, Dealing with the Truth, get censored from various big tech platforms, but this craziness in the Arabic world is allowed to go out there. So, Michelle, what do you see as a solution for this engagement, this war right now? How do you see it drawing to a close?
Well, from the intel and the sources that I send you, the military is fired up. They're not going to stop. They are going full force. There's no stopping them. So, you know, that one of the people that I get information from has farmland up in the north, and they burned their farm, and they have a license to find who did it and take them out. And that's what they're doing. There's no stopping them once and for all.
Yeah, these problems are occurring. All right, hang in there, Michelle. Emmelle, let's go back to you for a minute. I know you're on a tight schedule, but give us a closing thought. I know you're a big supporter of Jews and Christians. What are your thoughts in terms of mobilizing Jews and Christians now to take a stand?
We have to mobilize. We have to mobilize. We have to take a stand. Israel has to just finally wipe this out so they don't have a fight they need to cut Hamas off at the knees. They need to destroy their infrastructure so we don't have another war in Israel for 10 years. And we need to fight these radical forces that have taken over control of our two great democracies. I fear for our democracies. There's an evil in the world. The evangelical Christians have to come forward. We have to pray. We have to mobilize. We need a huge voice in this country to mobilize us and move us forward. And we've got this evil has permeated two great democracies. And how we mobilize, it's a big job.
It's a big job.
It's a big job, and we need something to shock the conscience, and maybe people will wake up. I just fear that people have been so brainwashed and gaslighted and fooled, and like Michelle said, the great Satan in both countries is the media. The great Satan, the media. Anyway, I love our country. I love Israel. I pray for our two great democracies that they continue to stand strong and be a light to the world. And we have to stay in the fight.
Absolutely. All right, Emmelle, thank you very much for taking time this morning to share your thoughts, your sensitive, passionate thoughts. Like I said, a little different show today. We're gonna deal with some feelings from some of our friends involved in this at various levels. Thanks, Emmelle. Okay. We'll be seeing you. Take care. Let's bring on Roger right now. Roger Gangitano is a very dear friend of United West for many years. In fact, runs part of our operation in Central Florida, and he's involved day in and day out on these issues. Roger, good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Tom. Thanks for having me on. Good morning to everyone else. I'm proud to be a small part of the United West, okay, and do whatever I can to help our common goals and mission.
All right, well, here's the deal, Roger. You have been with us on the front lines. You were with us in Garland, Texas, when the jihadis got a little excited, started shooting bullets and all of that. So you have a wealth of analytical research and activism experience. But I want to shift gears a little bit here. Our shows are usually pretty heavily on analysis and research and all of that. And we're going to get into some of that later. But just your reflections. You're a Christian. You work with a lot of Jewish people. What are your thoughts? I'm not usually a feelings guy, but what are your feelings? I'm getting a lot of response on our shows. People are really enjoying our shows. And I wanted to give sort of a human side to our team, our supporters. Your feelings on what's going on right now.
Well, I try, especially when representing or being associated with a group, okay, as respectable as the United West, okay, and some of the other groups, I really got to tone it down because I'm just a street guy, and I relate to things on a more ground level. Okay, I just don't. When I say I don't understand the Palestinians, I truly do. The Hamas covenant does in fact state that they will not accept any treaties, any negotiations or anything. The intent is to wipe Israel off the map and the Jews with it. They will reject any offer of peace, regardless as to whether it benefits them or not. They have been offered on no less than 3 separate occasions. They've been offered a 2-state solution. One was in 1937 by the Peel Commission. There would have been an Arab state created where there were primarily Arabs living. There would have been a Jewish state where primarily Jews were living. Okay, and they rejected that out of hand, and they continued to fight to achieve their objective, which the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Amin al-Husseini, said was to drive the Jews into the sea. The second and probably the most recognized chance for a 2-state solution came in 1947, when the UN decided to split the region of Palestine, much the way that the Peel Commission had set out to do. And again, the Arabs rejected the plan and instead chose to attack Israel the day after they declared their independence. So that's a flat out rejection. And the third chance came in 2000 with the Mideast Peace Summit, which was moderated by Bill Clinton. Shockingly and surprisingly, Israel had offered the Arabs almost everything that they wanted: an independent state in the West Bank and in Gaza, compensation and the right of return for refugees, control over much of Jerusalem. And lo and behold, the Palestinians rejected the proposal flat out. So if those were the only things that the Arabs were offered over a period of time, okay, you could turn around and say, well, nitpick the offers and maybe there's a problem. But since 1919, there's been no less than another 17 offers of peace and proposals and gestures and opportunities presented to the Arabs and the Muslims by the international community and Israel, and they have rejected every single solitary one of them. Now, eventually, people have to turn around and stop saying, and I mean the left, they have to stop saying, yeah, but the Jews wear Pesachs on the side of their head and they're Jewish. And that's the only thing that they got to argue with, because you cannot have a track record of 100% rejection of qualified offers and reject every one of them and still be considered valid as seeking peace. They do not seek peace. They are bound by the Quran to fight the infidel and to war with the infidel for the sake of the religion. Their Hamas is bound by their constitution, their charter that you just brought up, bound by that to fight Israel. So when do those facts get taken into consideration and not just ignored? So let me summarize and just close with one other comment. Okay, being a street guy, there's been times in my life where we've had physical confrontations, okay, and fistfights with other guys. The other guy, whether it be me or the other guy, really never gives up until he's convinced he's lost. Well, the last confrontation between Israel and the Arabs in 2014, I think there were 2,200 Arabs killed and 70 Jews, Israelis, were lost. I don't want to say Jews because there's more than Jews. There's Muslims in Israel also, but 70. So that's a 30-to-1 ratio, kill ratio. 30-to-1 more Arabs die in these confrontations than what do the Israelis. So when do they smarten up? Okay, they get their butt kicked every time, and yet they continue to lob rockets indiscriminately into Israel. And then Israel comes, has got to slap them around until their eyes swell shut, and then they can't see the truth. So I think that Israel should continue to continue their attacks on Hamas and wipe out as many of them as what is internationally acceptable, and then a little bit beyond, and make them understand that if what they want is a fight, Israel will give them the fight and take them to the mat every time. And that's my feeling, and I hope.
All right, Roger, thank you for your feelings, your very sensitive feelings. And
I'm a sensitive guy.
the feelings part of our show is, we got to get it back on track a little bit. When Claire goes on, she has tremendous feelings. We'll get feelings from her. Roger Gangitano, when he says a street guy, it's not like the United West found him in a homeless shelter or something like that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Roger is a New Yorker, as you can imagine. Sicilian, Italian like me. We grew up in the same area. He was in New York. I was in New Jersey. And being in the street knows you know what's going on. You know, maybe you go to college and all that, but your real education is on the street. You understand people, you understand negotiation, you understand fighting, and you understand what the world's about. And my experiences being around the US and different parts of the world, it's very unique. The education you get in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, that's a real street education. It's tough to be conned if you're from that area. And the Jews, the Israelis are being conned. I think they know what's going on. And we're going to talk to Claire in a little while about the fact that the analysts, particularly the Arab analysts, are now saying Hamas is the victor. Already, they're the victor for several reasons. And we'll talk about that. And Mark, you wanted to do a little role play. What was that all about?
Oh, come on.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Mark's got
We're talking.
at 9:33 in the morning, Tom Trento bringing J. Mark on camera, not Susie Gold. She'll be back tomorrow. Go ahead.
We were talking about this the other day, and we said, okay, let's imagine that you have a neighbor right next to you, share a property line right down the middle, and all of a sudden you have a dispute over the property line, or the other guy just doesn't like Italians or whatever. Okay. So you say, okay, we'll split the property line. On one side, I'm gonna build my garden, and on the other side, you build your garden. You grow your garden, it's nice and flush. His is kind of all dilapidated. And he gets mad and he starts throwing rocks at you. And you're like, hey, what are you doing throwing rocks at you? He says, I don't know, I don't like you. I'm throwing rocks at you. He goes, okay, don't throw the rocks. I'm gonna build a wall. He builds like a 20-foot wall so he can't throw rocks at you anymore. Okay, rock throwing stop. And all of a sudden, there's some hand grenades coming over the top of the thing, blowing up in your yard. Hey, listen, I got kids running all over here. You can't be throwing hand grenades over here. He goes, I don't care. I don't like you. And he keeps throwing.
You got a better garden than I do.
I do.
You got a better garden.
And so he said, okay, what I'm going to build, since hand grenades take like 3 seconds to go off, I'm going to build a shelter for my kids. So when they see a hand grenade come over, they run into the shelter before it blows up. Good solution, right, Tom? He goes, okay, so here comes more hand. Then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of hand grenades start coming over. And he says, oh, okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get a whole bunch of people with badmintons and knock them back over so they don't come back in. Okay. And that's all you do. You're sitting there badminton back. He says, what is the logic in all this? Stop the guy throwing hand grenades. When is the time you call the police and say,
it's all defensive. Everything's defensive. And then the neighbor finally says, all right, that's it. I'm treating symptoms. I got to go treat the cause. I got to go to where they're making the hand grenades and the stones and disrupt it or
call the police
or something. And you call the police,
and the police say,
now we're carrying this analogy a little bit. You call the police, and then the neighbor goes, oh, he's a bully. He's got more strength than I do.
And his garden's better than mine.
And the police, the UN and the world community says, okay, you stop blowing him up. We'll slap you on the wrist. We'll tell him to go back to growing his garden. Every 7 years, that's what's happened. How would anybody put up with that on
With
their
that-
own private property? No.
Seriously, you don't, anyway, that's all I want. That's my feelings about the whole thing. It's when you reduce it down to its simplest form, that is the problem.
Very understandable.
So anyway, that's all I wanted.
All right, way to go, Mark. All right, Tom Trento here, 9:36 on the East Coast, 4:36 p.m. Let me see, I have some folks going in Israel. Roger, thank you very, very much for your comments. One more comment before you leave. Take a minute. What is your message to, we have 2 rallies this week, one Friday in North Palm Beach, Friday afternoon, 4:30 to 6:30. And then a Jexit rally in Fort Lauderdale, Sunday, the 23rd of May, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, rallying on US 1 and Oakland Park Boulevard for those of you in Florida. We're going to have hundreds of people at each, the Fort Lauderdale one and the North Palm Beach one at Willie's Corner, Military Trail, and Palm Beach Gardens Boulevard. We're not just proclaiming and speaking from the ivory tower here. We're getting out in the street, taking a stand for Israel. You've been very involved in mobilizing and organizing Jews and Christians. What's your 1-minute message to Jews and Christians and people who aren't even of faith, but people have a common human understanding of Israel's right to exist? What is your message to get those people activated now?
Well, I think it's important, okay, that we show up, that people show up at these rallies to show their support. And each and every person that shows up is an indicator of probably hundreds and thousands of others that could not show up at the rally. So it's really important that people attend and show their support for Israel. The Biden administration is certainly not going to pick up the fight for Israel and support them fully if they don't see that the public is really supporting Israel. So we need to show the Biden administration that we'll not be silent on this issue, that the people will come out strongly in support of Israel and back him into a corner so that he does the right thing and stands by our strongest ally in the Mideast.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears on that one. Thank you, Roger, for taking time from your day. I know you're going to do a humanitarian deed in a little bit, donating some of your plasma to help other people. So not only are you a soldier on the front lines of the culture wars here in the United States, behind the scenes, you're doing what you can to help others. But I don't know, truth be told, if I'd want any of your blood running through my veins. I don't know, all the cigars you're smoking these days. But next time we're together, we got some good cigars for you.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me on, Tom. It's my honor.
Have a wonderful day. Let me check on some of our.
Claire.
Yeah, I know we got some Israeli. Is Barry on?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been looking for him. All right, let's go right to Israel before we go to Claire. We're going to go to our analyst, our dear friend, the Israel Strategic Studies author, researcher, analyst, and tremendous guy in Israel right now at 4:39 in the afternoon. Barry Shaw. Barry, welcome back. We need a quick 5-minute update. What's going on, and then hang on the show. I'm going to bring Claire on, and then we'll get into some of the details of what's happening.
Okay, let's give you a wrap. Although all hell is breaking loose over here, I hope to cram it in 5 minutes. I can tell you right now of the rockets of this morning, 2 Israelis have been killed and 7 injured in the south near the Gaza border. We had a very, very strange incident over here. Hamas this morning stopped their rocket fire for about 2 hours. You know why? You know why?
No.
Because Israel wanted to supply Gaza with 4-5 trucks of 38,000 liters of fuel to go into Gaza. And therefore Hamas stopped their fight. The one thing we don't know if these people, these trucks went to the Gazans for their use, or whether they were hijacked when they went into Gaza by Hamas for their own military purposes. Incidentally, I just uploaded onto my Facebook page a short video of some of the trucks going into Gaza this morning. And although those trucks weren't fuel, they were goods, all sorts of things that the people in Gaza need. Who knows whether Hamas hijacked those as well. But I want to sum this up because your viewers, I guess, are unaware that in a normal day, between 800 and 1,000 trucks go from Israel into Gaza on a daily basis. Over 30,000 Gazans come into Israel every day to work. And any people needing medical equipment, medical attention go into Israeli hospitals where they're treated for free. This goes on normally on a day in, day out basis. So if you want to talk about a blockade of Gaza, yes, it's a blockade to stop Hamas getting their military equipment or stuff to manufacture weapons and rockets, or to dig hundreds of kilometers of underground terror tunnels. By the way, the news of this morning is so far we have destroyed, wait for it, 120 kilometers, that's about 18 miles of Hamas underground tunnels.
Wow.
But the other critical thing, because I've got to race through it, apparently you're putting me on a time schedule here. We've had another thing going on. I want your viewers also to understand what's going on here is not really to do with Hamas inciting or throwing rockets at Israel. This is a competition going on between two rival warring Palestinian entities, the Fatah in Ramallah and Hamas in Gaza. And the latest episode of this, yesterday, Hamas called on the Arabs of Judea and Samaria, that's what they call the West Bank, to rise up and take up arms against the Israelis. And the Palestinian authorities can't be out-competed. So they're also helping to recruit the Arabs into their control. This is, according to the Oslo Accord, what's called Area B, to sort of march on Israel, attacking the checkpoints right now. As we're talking, it's building up right now. So they've added another element to the stew, and that is getting the street Palestinians under the control of the Palestinian Authority to actually turn their back on the Palestinian Authority in support of Hamas and to rise up against the Israelis. There's going to be some terribly ugly scenes this afternoon, but it's nothing to do with Israel. Israel did not provoke this. Israel did not incite this. This has been incited by the two sides of the warring Palestinian divide. This is the divide that your media and your Biden White House will not admit. This is the obstacle for peace in the Middle East.
Barry Shaw from Israel, again with an up-to-date, up-to-the-minute report. Hang on, Barry. I'm going to bring Claire on, and then I want to sort of deconstruct some of what you said. And in light of Fatah and the Hamas, I want you to factor in, and Claire also, the Iranian element, the Iranian management of all of this behind the scenes. I started out the show today basically saying I want everybody to remember three words: Iran, Iran, Iran. And if you look at this from a broad geopolitical perspective, you see Iran in every element of this war. Why? And Barry, in a bit, we'll get back to you. I'm hearing not only Arab, but even Israeli analysts, military retired generals saying, Hamas views that they're winning this. They're winning this engagement. How do you win when you get yourself flattened? But that's an interesting question. Let's go to Clare Lopez, obviously a dear friend of ours, part of the United West for the past 30 years. Clare has worked in the three-letter agencies, the CIA, retiring from there, different Defense Department contracts, Center for Security Policy. Her life has been research, analysis, operations in various, can you say, S-hole countries around the world. She has expertise on Russia, on Iran, on the Middle East, been with us to Israel many times. And welcome once again, Clare Lopez. How you doing today?
Hey, thank you, Tom. It's great to be with all of you.
Now, I need you to take off your research analysis hat, put on your sensitive hat for a minute, if you can do that. And as a normal human being, and some of my friends would say, I don't think Claire's a normal human being.
Oh, thanks.
She's in not in a positive way. As a normal human being, you're not involved in all this stuff. You're just looking at it. I mean, what does your heart say?
Well, I'll tell you what really struck me this morning, and this is looking at online social media and listening to Barry and Michelle and Emmelle. We were at that crossing, or one of the crossings, right, from Israel into Gaza on our last trip, and we saw, huge trucks carrying loads of humanitarian goods, a lot of food, for example. And this morning I can see on social media photos of lines of tractor trailer trucks, big long bed trucks carrying piles of humanitarian goods. I'm not sure if it's food or if it's other materials, but going into Gaza, even as the jihadi terrorists from Gaza are doing everything in their power to slaughter Jews. Israel is sending goods into Gaza for the people there, the ordinary people who are badly mistreated by their own leadership.
It's mind-boggling.
That was amazing.
And what you're referring to is Kareem Shalom, the crossing down by the Egyptian border. Now, for our audience, our national security trips, tours. I mean, a tour sounds like tourists going around. We're doing briefings. We're learning about the walls. We're learning about everything. We got special permission to go into this very sensitive area. We had to shut the cameras off at certain places. We had to point them in certain directions. We watched the dogs, looking at all the various loads that were going in. And yeah, it's down here. Here's the Gaza Strip. Here's Jerusalem. Where'd Jerusalem go? Right over here. We were down almost at the corner of Egypt. In fact, we went to the fence down at the Egyptian border. But Kareem Shalom is right down here. All the trucks go in. I didn't know. I knew a lot, Barry. I didn't know 30,000 Gazans come out and go to work every day in Israel, the apartheid state. So we were there, and we're supposed to go, Claire, in June on our next trip. I don't think we're going in June right now. Yeah. COVID issues, all of that. But Claire, let's talk about. Thank you for your sensitive involvement and reporting on that. Let's get back to the research analysis now for the rest of the show. You've been watching Iran very, very closely. Sketch out the Iranian involvement. Then I want to go to Barry, see if he could elucidate a bit more on Iran.
Right. So I really think that, this particular outbreak at this moment, obviously, yes, it's directed, backed, funded, armed by Iran. But that it came because I think of a confluence of perceived weaknesses. I think I've said this before on other shows, maybe this one too. Perceived weaknesses in three capitals. Obviously, with the new Biden administration coming into Washington, D.C., it was understood all over the world that this would be the un-Trump administration, and that the close, supportive relationship between the Trump administration and, of course, Trump personally with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would not continue with this administration. And so that the testing of the new administration began early. I mean, not just in the Middle East, but everywhere. China, obviously Iran with its nuclear weapons program, everywhere. The second capital showing the weakness, of course, is Ramallah. And you've talked about this before, Tom, where, Mahmoud Abbas is in the 17th year of a 4-year term or something, and he'd been persuaded to hold elections this month, mid-month of May here, 2021, when it dawned on them that, oops, Hamas is going to win those elections if we let those go forward, just like back in 2006. And so they had to figure out, how do we get out of this?
Hey, Claire, hang on 1 second. Can we go to I-24?
Yeah.
There's some breaking news on I-24, an update. We'll get right back to you.
A couple more days means that we're still likely.
I can give you.
Even
I
though
can give you
the
info.
have maybe slowed at certain times, it doesn't take too long for them to reignite and for the rockets to be launched towards southern Israel. And of course, the Iron Dome being a very, very crucial for this very moment when we arrived here. But we saw the Iron Dome releasing some of those Tamir interceptors and intercepting at least 2 rockets over the city of Ashdod. So definitely still a very, very intense situation here in southern Israel. Hamas made a promise to launch rockets towards Tel Aviv last night if the Israeli strikes continue to target homes in Gaza. The IDF did announce that it targeted Hamas leadership homes, but we have yet to see any rockets heading towards central Israel. The furthest place we did see rockets reaching, or at least rocket alert sirens, was in the southern city of Dimona. So we'll see whether or not the radius of fire changes, or if we continue to see the barrages targeting mainly the Gaza envelope, cities like Ashkelon, Ashdod, Sderot, and Beersheba, where we've seen a lot of the rocket fires, especially in the last couple of days, Benita.
Okay. Quick update from I-24. And Barry, you had something? And then we'll get back to Claire. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. I give you an update on the information you got behind you. I can give you an update that the 2 people that were killed have been agricultural workers from Thailand. I don't know if you know this, but Israel has a number of people from Asian countries, and 2 Thai workers were killed and working on a moshav or a kibbutz in the south, where they got hit by mortar fire from Hamas in Gaza, just across the border. So here we are. Hamas have so far not only killed Muslims, a father and a 16-year-old beautiful daughter who are Arab, but also non-Israelis as well.
Yeah, unbelievable. And Claire, one of our trips, we were in the Ashkol Central Council room, and that's an area that's being targeted right now by the Hamas with the mortars, where you got 15 seconds once they're launched until they hit into these border areas. So we got 2 capitals, Claire. We have the weakness in Washington, the weakness in Ramallah. What's the 3rd capital?
Well, the competition obviously is between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas to see which can be, out jihadi the other, out terror the other. And so right now, even, never mind all of the instigation that led up to this, but right now, in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, PLO, are instigating rioting and attacks by the people in those places like Ramallah. What am I looking at? Bethlehem, attacking the Israeli security forces in those places. I find it interesting that Hamas is now using mortars. I wonder if that has to do with the fact that a great deal of their stocks of the longer range rockets and missiles have now been depleted, shall we say. The 3rd capital, though, to finish that out, is of course Jerusalem, where after 4 elections, it's not yet settled, which coalition will be able to put together enough seats in the Knesset. They got to reach 61 out of a total of 120 seats in the Knesset to have a majority. And no one's yet been able to put together that coalition. But oddly, well, no, not oddly, significantly, this whole episode right now is actually, I think, working to strengthen Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu because of his strong leadership, very, very visibly defending Israel and the people of Israel. I think his credibility as a leader has improved. Now, I don't know what that means for future coalitions or government, but those are the three weaknesses I think that were perceived. And that is why this is happening now. Iran, of course, head of the snake of the entire region, and directing a lot of this, certainly arming, training, funding, all of the jihadi terrorist groups, not just Hamas and PIJ, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but Hezbollah, and so many others.
Well, all right, Claire, you laid out, Barry, I'm coming to you in a minute. You laid out the weakness, and we understand in the Arab world, actually the Arab world predating Islam, the Arabs always had a cultural understanding of the weak horse loses to the strong horse. So if you got a weak horse, if that tribe is weak, the strong horse defeats it. If you happen to be the weak horse, take a step back. This predated Islam, this cultural concept. You infuse that with the theology of Islam, now you got a deadly combination where if you're the strong horse, you're advancing with the sword, as we've seen through the global jihads over the past 1,400 years. If you're the weak horse, you sit back, you sit back, you sit back, you wait until the strong horse is weak. November 3rd, 2020, when the new president came in, you go, oh, they have a weak horse now. And we said a year ago when Biden was announced as the nominee, we said the Middle East is going to be in flames. Strong horse, weak horse. Now, Barry, a question to you. Claire brought up the weakness of the government in Jerusalem, but opened the door to possibly the Phoenix revival of Benjamin Netanyahu. I know many Israelis 2 weeks ago didn't want him as prime minister. What do you see in play a month from now for Benjamin Netanyahu?
Okay, but to summarize, I'm glad to see that both Claire and I are on the same page on that, because what we're seeing, and this has to be repeated, Tom, in your program going forward. This isn't a battle, as I say, between Hamas and Israel. This is a battle on to corrupt the soul of the Palestinian street. I explain it this way. It's a Game of Thrones war between Hamas and Fatah, and they're using Israel as the cannon fodder. But coming on to what the question you asked, the most popular figure in Israel right now is a guy called Aviv Kochavi. He is the IDC chief of staff. All of Israel, 100%, are behind this man. The way he is conducting the campaign against Hamas in Gaza is the way that Israelis had expected Israel to do in past operations. He's got to be given the time to finish the job. The question is whether he'll be able to do so. Yes, perhaps it may reflect on Benjamin Netanyahu, like you said, Tom. One of the things it has done, it's really screwed up, if you want to put it that, the negotiations that were going on to form a government, because the clock is still ticking for somebody to form a government, and the other side, led by Yair Lapid, had 40 days, but now, of course, about 2 weeks or more have gone by, and he's got probably 20 days to form a government, although it's impossible to do right now, because one of the factors in this was supposed to be one of the breakaway Arab parties that were going to come into the mix here, and no Arab party is going to take a step forward in order to support a stable Israeli government, even though it's going to be beneficial for the Israeli Arabs right now. So we have a stagnation going on in our own political thing, which we had to put aside to one side, where we get rid of this existential danger we've got against us.
Unbelievable. The politics in the democracy, the Republic of Israel. All right, folks, we have to start winding down. It's the top of the hour, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock in Israel. We have no restrictions on our show, but we want to go just a few more minutes. And Claire, weigh in on Hezbollah, the army of God up north, and what's going through their minds right now, and why they don't feel it's time to unleash on Israel and open up a major northern front.
I think this is one of the mostly unspoken real successes of the strategy of Israel right now. And that is having succeeded in deterring Hezbollah from jumping in. Because believe me, it is deterrence that kept them out, not any kind of goodwill. The fact that there have only been a few pot shots taken out of Lebanon towards northern Israel up until now speaks to the fact that Hezbollah has been deterred from jumping in. I think part of that has to do with the reality that if they even tried, Israel would just lay waste to Lebanon, and for the Lebanese people, disaster, but Hezbollah too. And so in some way, behind the scenes, and we're not seeing this, but the effect is what we're seeing, and that is that Hezbollah has been deterred up until now from jumping into this. And I think that's a major success for Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli leadership.
Yeah, right along those lines, Claire. One of the places we always go to on Ronnie Wexler's national security briefings in Israel is way up north in the Golan, Mizgav Am, the kibbutz up there, where you can. In my younger days, I could throw a football right into Lebanon. It's maybe 50 yards away or so. Be a little difficult now. But when some of their rockets were fired from Lebanon and the Iron Dome got engaged, the folks up at Mizgam were quoted in the news that they hear the explosions overhead. So that's how close all that activity was. And I mean, we've been in virtually every single region where there's been some activity, whether military or street unrest. So, and we're going back. Most likely we'll go as things subside toward the end of the year or early next year, subside to some degree. We're not afraid to go there in difficult times, you know that. All right, as we wind down, anyone else who is still with us would like to share a closing thought on our show this morning? If you do, Mary, how do we identify them?
I will have to get them to unmute and turn their cameras on.
Our purpose today, as you're doing that, was to give you a little insight into some of the friends of the United West and just their personal reflections on the sadness of this. Nobody likes war, especially if you've been involved in any sort of war anywhere. You don't like it, but it's a harsh reality to deal with evil in the world. I got an evil neighbor, keeps throwing stones at me. I got to do something. Evil country next to you likes to kill your people. You got something. So who do we have?
Well, the sadness.
Well, let's listen to Mark and Mary. You guys, and then we'll get to our.
The sadness of this whole thing is what it's doing to the Arab peoples. I mean, if they did not launch the rockets at Israel, they would not be suffering the retaliation of the Israeli jets and everything else. This is completely, on the fault, of the Gazans. I mean, they're throwing hand grenades over the fence, literally throwing the hand grenades over the fence. And the ones who are getting it worse are the Muslim people. They're the ones who are suffering. Not the Israelis aren't suffering as far as like death tolls and stuff like this. They're still having, you watching the I-24 news, there's trucks still driving around. They're still doing business. It's a total wasteland over in Gaza. They're the ones who are suffering. Anyway.
The argument may be, well, did the Hamas? Well, that election in 2006 was not that we're experts at running elections here in the United States, but that was an election at the point of a barrel, basically. So you got Arab families that are wonderful families. We've seen them all over Israel. They may chant, "Oh yeah, free Palestine," but when the bombs drop, they have a come to Jesus moment. They go, what is this? Stop it. We don't want this. They realize this is not good. Well, your leaders got you into this. And here's what's ironic, what you said, Mark. The Iron Dome is saving tens of thousands of Arab lives in the Gaza Strip. If those 3,500 missiles start coming in with no broad capability of stopping them, there'd be thousands of Israeli deaths, and the Israelis would never allow that. They would go and obliterate Gaza, and you'd have tens and tens of thousands, like World War II kind of wars.
Right.
The technology to defend yourself is protecting Arab aggressors. How bizarre is that? Mary, your thoughts, then we'll bring in some of the others.
Well, my thoughts are that if we still had Trump as a president, there's no way this would have continued more than a day or two, because he would have stood up with Israel, he would have supported them, he would have been there on the front lines saying, this is enough, we're not standing for it. He would have called in all of the nations he could have possibly called in to stand with him against these terrorists that are terrorizing the citizens of Israel. So my thoughts are, we are in chaos here in the U.S., so they see that as a moment they can just do whatever they want to do, and how dare them.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is that the Biden administration itself seems to be conflicted or talking out of both sides of its mouth.
That's right.
People might know that they have just approved over 700 and I forget $50 million worth of weapon sales, precision guided missiles for Israel. That's just been approved by the Biden administration, which also repeatedly, I think it's 3 times now, has vetoed an initiative at the UN Security Council to meet to call for a ceasefire. They have blocked that. So it seems that even within the Democrat Party leadership in the US, they're not all on the same page of music.
Claire, I've got a question for you. Why are not all of the nations that signed on to the Abrahamic Accord, why aren't they standing with Israel now, loudly proclaiming we're on your side?
Well, the UAE has issued a statement, that is the United Arab Emirates, has issued an official statement calling on Hamas to stop the bombardment. As for the other 3, Morocco, Sudan, and Bahrain, I've not heard a statement from them, but I think it's significant that it comes from the UAE. And I think that probably indicates, I wish it were more vocal, but that Saudi Arabia, its leadership also is behind what UAE said.
Iranian citizens also wrote a letter. Did you see
Well,
that?
citizens, I mean, they don't have any.
But
What did they say, Michelle?
they were in support of Israel.
The Iranian
I think
citizens.
I sent you that.
Yeah, the I think it was 735 million of approved dollars for guided missiles. From what I understand, that was typical part of the money we give them, going through the sort of behind the scenes machinations of the government, the State Department, all of that, and typically rubber stamped by Congress. But a couple of the jihadis in Congress saw that, making a big deal out of it now. And I think Biden is stuck between, when you have dementia, and he does, the clarity of thought isn't there. He has, in some ways, supported Israel through his life. He's got a lot of Jewish friends and Jewish donors. Don't ever miss that. So there's a sense of, I got to stand with them. But then, oh, wait a minute, I'm the president of a jihadi administration here. What do I do? And the last I heard, he caved earlier and has started to call for a ceasefire, as opposed to, let's stand with what Trump would have done. And we know what he would have done. Any others want to have a closing thought? And then we'll end the show. Barry, I'm going to come to you for a 1-minute closing request from Israel to the United States. But after, anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah.
We got everything. All right, Barry, a 1-minute request from Israel to us here in the United States of America?
I just want to give you one spot of information that you haven't covered. This Palestinian-inspired violence against Israel happened just days after the Biden administration gave a pile of money to the Palestinian Authority. And also, Hamas received $100 million from Qatar. They waited until they got the money before they opened their campaign against Israel. I'll give you some, in the last 15 seconds I've got, I'll give you some inside information that Aviv Kochavi, the IDF chief of staff, was down on the southern border yesterday talking to some of the regional leaders over there. And he told them to keep prepared for security, keep people protected, because this thing is going to carry on for another few days.
Okay, there you have it, direct from Israel. I thank everybody for joining us. Please send the link out, and once we send it out, you can get it. Tell your friends tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Tremendous show tomorrow. Every show has been great. I mean, they've all been very, very good. Tomorrow we have Pastor Umar Malinde, and if you don't know about him, you need to. Ugandan attacked Christmas Eve 2011 in Uganda because he's a Christian converted from Islam, but he's a strong supporter of Israel, attacked with acid, wound up at the Sheba Hospital in Israel, treated by the Israelis for about 2 years. In January of 2012, United West team, Mark, myself, Claire, others, were in the room with him and interviewed him. I'll send that interview out. He's in hiding now somewhere in the world, but he's going to be live with us 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, telling his story and his concerns about Israel right now, strong defender of Israel. Then that's Wednesday. Thursday, we have another strong defender of Israel, sort of a blast from the past, but he's still very active. Pat Boone, the singer, actor. Very few people know that the music to the Broadway play and the movie Exodus, the words, the lyrics to that music were written by Pat Boone when he was 24 years old on the back of a Christmas card. And that's become the second national anthem to the state of Israel. He's a close friend of Benjamin Netanyahu's. He will be with us for our Thursday show. And then it looks like Friday, we'll have Dan Gordon, Captain Dan Gordon, retired from the reserves and the IDF, Hollywood screenwriter. He came up with an idea that we're going to develop. And he said, yeah, let's have a two-state solution. The second state is Gaza. They got it in 2006. Let's compare what is available in that strip of land and how other peoples would have developed it over these 15 years. And let's look at how the Hamas has managed that. And they had an opportunity, and they still have, to build a state there, but they seek not to build a paradise on the Mediterranean, as Dan Gordon said, but they seek to go to paradise by killing Jews. We're going to develop that and compare and contrast how other peoples. Imagine if the Chinese took over Gaza, what the Gaza Strip would look like in 5 years. Big towers 200,000 feet in the air and lights and this and business. We'll see you.